Hey everyone, Amar here. In this video, we're going to be talking about the importance of deep breathing. Why deep breathing is so key for your transformation journey, your spiritual growth, your personal development. The breath is so key, not just for your growth, but also for your physical health as well. So I want to get into why this is so key. Hopefully give you enough inspiration that you begin to take your breathing more seriously. Before we get into the video, just quickly want to say that if you're new to the channel, you like this sort of stuff, you want to see more, you know what to do, hit the subscribe button. Check me out on Instagram as well if you're on there. I upload on there regularly as well. Before we start the video, just want to address the elephant in the room. Obviously, I'm wearing a white shirt today, which is a bit different from me. I usually wear black, but I thought I'd try something different, so I hope it's not too distracting. But yeah, let's get into this video then, the importance of deep breathing. Now, you've probably all heard yogis and spiritual gurus and loads of books out there about this, that the breath is so important, right? And I used to hear all this stuff, right? But it was only maybe 6 months ago that I started to take my breathing more seriously. Like, the breath is one of the most important aspects of being a human being, right? It's the first thing we do when we're born. We breathe. It's the last thing we do when we leave the earth. We exhale, right? It's with us through the whole journey. And most of us never actually pay much attention to it, right? We just do it unconsciously. But as you're going to understand, some of these most simple things like the breath are actually the foundation or the key to transformation, right? You can go to some spiritual retreats or meditation retreats and they'll just have you focusing on your breath for days on end, right? Because it's that important, right? So I think we need to sometimes stop looking for extraordinary solutions, or I need to try the next DMT, or I need to do something crazy, when everything you've got, everything you need to change your life is right there. Like, your breath is right there. You're breathing all the time. So it's the foundation of real transformation, as I'm finding out. So I want to explain to you how we kind of forget how to breathe and what healthy breathing looks like. So when we're obviously conditioned and born into the world, we experience a lot of painful circumstances, painful experiences, right? And unconsciously, what that makes us do is it makes us kind of restrict our breath, believe it or not. You might have caught this in yourself. When you're feeling anxious, you might find yourself not breathing very deeply. A lot of the time, we actually hold our breath when we're anxious or stressed or angry or something. We hold our breath. That is literally not good. That's a pattern that you picked up earlier on in your life, right? You restrict your breathing so you don't feel too much, right? Because when you were early on and there was very overwhelming experiences and stuff happening around you, you didn't know how to deal with it, right? But what you unconsciously found out was, if I restrict my breathing, if I don't breathe as deeply, then I don't feel as much, right? You can try this out. We all do it. Just to give you an example, I used to do this when I was a kid because I didn't like fast rides. So when I used to go on a fast ride, I used to hold my breath, right? Because it didn't feel as bad. Now I understand that was actually constricting my breathing. And in fact, if I was actually able to breathe deeper through that experience, that overwhelming emotion of excitement or whatever that is, of thrill that comes through you when you are on a fast ride, it would have flowed through me easier, right? But like I said, through our early life experiences, we learn to restrict our breath, and a lot of it's unconscious. We don't even understand how we're breathing until you begin to bring your focus to it, right? So that's what you've got to understand, is that when you're triggered or feeling negative, your breathing pattern is going to change, right? It's going to change to an earlier breathing pattern that you found, just so you don't feel whatever's happening too much. It's a coping mechanism. Unfortunately, that coping mechanism means you're not really in contact with your full self, right? The deeper you breathe, the more consciously, the more in tune you are with yourself, the more in tune you are with your body, right? So to resolve this issue, we've got to become more conscious of how we're breathing, especially during them difficult times, especially when you're triggered or you're feeling negative or stressed or anxious or anything like that, right? The good news is we can resolve a lot of this stuff by simply working with the breath. So what I welcome you to do is the next time you're feeling triggered or negative or whatever, bring your attention to your breath, right? Breathe deeply. The type of breathing I do that I would recommend is nostril breathing. About 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out, right? That's quite a deep breath. I'm not going to do it here because I'm just not. But yeah, 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. If you look on YouTube, you can find timers, right? And you can just train yourself to breathe this way. But you should be practicing this every time you remember, not just when you're triggered, because then it's not going to work, right? It's like sharpening a sword. You practice it all the time, pretty much. Every time you remember, when you're in the gym, when you're driving, when you're reading a book, anytime you're doing something where you're not, like, you can implement it into your life, right? Maybe not when you're talking or conversing because it doesn't work then. Then, yeah, you can breathe through your mouth. But every time you're doing something and you can keep your mouth closed, you should be breathing through your nose all the time. And these deeper, slower inhales and exhales, right? And if you train yourself during the simple times when you're feeling okay, then when the hard times come and your breathing wants to constrict and it wants to change pattern so you don't feel too much, you've been practicing the deep breathing and you can just keep the breath deeper because you've been practicing it, right? And like a lot of these practices, even meditation, it's about the practice, right? It's about doing it consistently. I see too many people. I used to be one of these people who maybe tried breathing consciously for a week or two. Go, nah, it's not for me. It doesn't work. In 2 weeks, you ain't going to learn anything, right? Think about more like 2 months. 2 months, you might actually start to think, okay, you know what? This has helped me out. But how many people are going to do it for 2 months? Probably not too many. But sometimes you just got to trust, right? And something like the breath has been around, the importance of breathing for thousands of years, right? So I always like to refer to things that have been around for thousands of years. Like forgiveness is another one, right? It's one I just made a video on. Been around for thousands of years. I'm not making these things up. These are just ancient practices and philosophies that people knew were true, right? And why should we look for anything else when everything we need has already been given to us, right? So like the breath you've got to learn how to breathe. There's a great book I would recommend that I just finished reading. It's not really so much about the spiritual and self-development side, but it will convince you to start breathing deeper. It's called Breathe by James Nestor. Or if you can't grab the book, check out some of his podcasts. He's got some really good ones. I think he did a good one with Lewis Howes. And he'll really sell the idea to you for why you should be breathing more consciously, right? I listened to a few of them podcasts and then I really got into his like breath work, and it just opened up this whole other world of why the breathing is so important for your development. So you don't get triggered and you don't get overwhelmed. When you can breathe consciously and deeply when you're triggered, you're going to allow that emotional experience to pass through you more smoothly, right? But like most people, we restrict our breath and we stop the flow of the emotional energy, right? So practice deep breathing all the time. Then when them hard times come, guess what? You can breathe deeply through them and allow the energy and the emotion of that experience to just move through you more freely. And guess what? You'll get through that negative experience quicker as well, and you'll learn how to deal with your emotions better. The breath is so key for this, right? Emotional mastery is something that I'm just obsessed with and I'm always talking about. But yeah, that's everything I've got to talk about in this video. I hope this video helped. I hope I really sold this idea to you. It's life-changing. You do have to stick to it though, and if you do, you will be rewarded, trust me. But that is everything I've got to talk about in the video. If you enjoyed it, any comments, questions, anything at all, you know what to do. Hit me up down below. Otherwise, if you please go ahead, give the video a like, share, subscribe. Really helps me out. Check out my book if you haven't already. I'll put a link down below. But until next time, remember to keep living free and being free. Peace.